Here are the solutions for section 9.5, monitoring progress 1 through 4, using the quadratic formula. Okay, so I always like to write down A, B, and C. So in this situation, A is 1, B is -6, C is 5. And I also like to write down the whole formula. So let me write it, I guess, up here. X equals the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. All right, so now let's plug that in. X equals the opposite of B, 6, plus or minus the square root of -6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5 all over 2 times 1. So X equals 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 20 all divided by 2. And continue down here. X equals 6 plus or minus the square root. 36 minus 20 is 16, all divided by 2. And remember, this is two different equations. So it's going to be X equals 6 plus 4, the square root of 16, divided by 2, and 6 minus 4 divided by 2. So that's 10 divided by 2, which is 5, and 2 divided by 2, which is 1. So these two are my roots, my solutions, my x-intercepts, or my zeros, and my zeros. Okay, let's go on to number 2. So this one we're going to have to use a calculator for, so have one ready. A is 1/2, B is 1, and C is 10. Oops, -10. Okay, so X equals the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times 1/2 times -10 all over 2 times 1/2. So -1 plus or minus the square root of 1. Half of 4 is 2. -2 times -10 is +20. All over half of 2 is 1. Okay, so this will have to plug into your calculator. So it's going to be -1 plus the square root of 21 and -1 minus the square root of 21, because these are not perfect squares. And plug it into the calculator and you should get let's see, what do we get? Sorry, -5.6 for this one. And this one is going to be +3.6, approximately. Okay, so I'm going to do my little squiggly lines. 3.6 and 5.6. Okay, let me clear the screen and we will do number 3. And I think number 3 we will also need to have a calculator ready. So I'll start up here. A is -3. B is 2, C is 7. Okay, here we go. X equals the opposite of B, opposite of 2, plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times -3 times 7, all over 2 times -3. So -2 plus or minus the square root of 4. So this is going to be -21. -21 times -4 is going to be positive -84. Yep. All over -6. So this is going to be X equals -2 plus or minus, again, square root of 92 all over -6. And remember, they're two different equations. So it's going to -2 plus the square root of 92 over -6 divided by -6, and -2 minus the square root of 92 divided by negative 6. Plug that into your calculator and you should get negative 1.2 and positive 1.9 approximately. Okay, last one, number 4. Oh, notice it doesn't equal 0. So when it doesn't equal 0, we have to add 1 to both sides so it does equal 0, and we can identify what A, B, and C is. Let me clear my screen. So now when I add 1 to both sides, my new equation is going to be 4x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals 0. So here you find out that A is 4, B is negative 4, and C is 1. All right. So it's going to be 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1, all divided by 2 times 4. So x is going to equal 4 plus or minus the square root of, this is going to be 16 minus 16, oh, which becomes 0, all divided by 8. So now it's going to be plus or minus 0. We don't need to rewrite that. So it's going to be 4 over 8, which turns into just 1/2. Oh, this one only has one root. Sorry, 1/2. So that means that this one, since A is still positive, oh, sorry, up here, A is positive, that it is facing up and it sits at the x-intercept 1/2.